this whole entire market is shifting right now. So you can either slip backwards with everybody else, or when everybody else goes bye-bye, you can take a big chunk of the market. What's happening, everybody? Today we are at VaynerX. We are here at VaynerMedia Los Angeles, getting ready to film an incredible podcast with Jeff Nicholson. He's the CMO, the Chief Media Officer. This dude is literally brilliant. He is a huge reason why I went all in on all my ad spends on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. He is a massive, massive influencer in this space, but he's almost completely not known. Like, the guy is an absolute genius, but he kind of stays behind the scenes, and now he's starting to kind of come out because he has so much to offer the market and so much brilliance he can share. And I'm super honored that I get to do a podcast with him today at the brand new VaynerX office here in Los Angeles. Stay tuned, this will be fire.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of that as well. I designed the product, so I designed it several years ago in my head, and it's basically data platform for marketing efficiency. So we have API integrations with Facebook, Google, Amazon, Snapchat, etc. All the major digital walled gardens. Mm-hmm. We aggregate it, contextualize it, so we put a data layer on top, and then we deliver back to the clients. So it's been automating. Dude. It's automating all of Vayner's reporting for the last 3 years. I just didn't tell anybody. So it was in stealth the whole time.
And so you're just like building it in your office and doing your thing.
So when I started at Vayner, there was 2 guys that started with me.
That was part of you coming over, was to take that and
We have a production room, so it's again like
you guys can come here and film everything you need. What's happening, everybody? Right now, we're in a very special place with a very, very special guest. I'm super, super pumped to bring this guy to you. He's literally the behind-the-scenes ninja that a lot of people don't know about, but that, my friends, is about to change. I'm with Jeff Nicholson, like the Jeff Nicholson that you don't know but will know. He is a huge piece of the success of VaynerMedia, and we are here in VaynerMedia, Los Angeles. So I'm super pumped to have him on the show. He is going to drop some information that's going to blow the back of your head off. So pay attention, get focused. Jeff, welcome, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Low expectations to set there as well. I love that.
Yeah. So a little bit of backstory how I met Jeff is I did this thing called the 4Ds that, if you haven't done it yet, it was literally the best $10,000 I spent in 2017. It literally netted me 7 figures from a $10,000 investment, largely because of Jeff. And when he went on last, and when he was being talked about through like the first couple speakers, it was Trotty said, "Wait till Jeff comes, he's a genius." And then everybody was like, well, now he has to like live up to it. Yeah. And in my head, I was like, genius, huh? And then he literally knocked it out of the park.
It's always a privilege to obviously have people talk about you that way. I think for me, my focus is just adding value across the board and making sure that anything I've learned over the years that I can pass back to other people, and especially the employees on my team.
Yeah, no, it was so cool for me to see all of these things and systems of like how you would literally run a Facebook ad, from how it's created, when you should run it, why, and then you kind of brought your fire to the table with like, well, there's a little more than that. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of dropping some knowledge on why it's so important to really get your head around what you do for this company.
Sure, yeah. I think when you think about media buying and just honestly acquiring consumers and driving revenue in general, what you're trying to achieve is the desired relationship with that end customer. And I think people really forget, I'll use a recent example. I was at the automotive conference yesterday in Vegas, and think about a tire manufacturer. What is their relationship with a consumer? Well, almost nothing.
Right.
Yet their single purchase for 4 tires is upwards of $1,000 and $3,000, depending on if you're performance tires. And so
that's right.
What do they want that to be the next 5 years? And what does Facebook ads have to do with that? Well, it could be a big portion to introduce a new product to a category or market, or do price gouging of your competitors. So it's not just, as we were talking about earlier, press the button and hit Facebook ads.
Right.
It's much more of a strategic application, and that is one of the distribution channels that you're honestly weaponizing that message to consumers. And then you have to consider well, are they going to take the message and take an action? And then am I pushing them to an action that they'll actually take from that platform? So one of the other things people forget very quickly, another recent example was someone ran a campaign to push to their app, to download the app. Well, they forgot to do reputation management on the App Store, and they had a rating of a 2.4. So they ran Facebook ads, but what happened was they didn't get any conversions. Why? Because they forgot the simple message on the second landing page told everybody not to use it.
Right. And it's those little details that can literally be catastrophic to your ads. And you can
and to your business.
And to your business.
Waste all your money for your testing for an entire year for a small medium business doing things of that nature.
100%. And it's those attention to detail that really kind of separates you and this company and your team, because you're the leader and you're in charge of them, so they can't make those errors, because it could be millions and millions and millions of dollars.
100%. You have an appreciation. I think it's why Gary and I get along so well. Obviously he's a well-established story around being a family-run business and really taking that on. One of my early jobs was working for a family business at a pro shop. It was 3 generations, and I worked for the grandfather and the father, and they were family friends. That's awesome. And very much always had an appreciation for how difficult it was for their family to grind it out as a driving range store owner. And Whirl Away, by the way, Methuen, Massachusetts. Please stop by and hit balls.
Yeah,
love Mark.
That's awesome.
But I think that it's really fascinating to see that level of love and commitment and desire from a family that's poured into a business for every dollar they grind out. And I think that trait was instilled in me from my father and that family very early. And Gary and I very much bond on that. And it's something I speak to my team quite a bit about, where sometimes the reaction very simply can be, oh, well, they're being overreactive to the money and blah, blah. I said, well, what if that was your money? Would you overreact, or would you want the money back? And typically everybody changed their tune very quickly if they took it out of their paycheck.
100%. And it's a huge piece that a lot of people miss in business, where it's like, no. Like, this is for my children. This is for my kids and my family. And when you put that piece, and that's why I'm sure that you guys have really hit it off, you have a high EQ and a high IQ. He literally operates from his entire EQ. So that's a great mesh and blend.
I always joke with Gary that I care about his money more than he does.
Totally.
So, if anything, I think he really appreciates that.
Yeah, and that's, and that, like, literally goes back to exactly what you said. Like, that was instilled in you when you were a kid. And it was instilled in you because you got to work for like a family business, and you got to see everybody grind their faces off. Yeah.
And my dad was committed to, go work hard for another gentleman that he obviously had respect for, had a good relationship for, with, and wanted me to go learn what hard work was. And for someone else, I think he was really imperative on me working for other people as well, to see that instilled not only from himself, but from other people that I could look up to and grow to hopefully be like.
Yeah, and it's a big piece too, because like, it's a completely different experience to actually hear it from dad.
Yeah.
And then to hear it from like somebody who dad respects. It just goes into a different place.
100%. Yeah, I think that for me, my mom always preached, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are. So very much like, who you spend your time with is going to, your environment's going to rub off on you.
And that's real. That's 100% real.
That's real. And you can curate that over your life. But I also think that other people curate that for you. You're a father. We were talking about the kids earlier. I have 2 baby boys. And so I think about quite a bit who will spend time with my sons and who would I like them to spend time with, so they draw other inspirations outside of myself.
Yeah, and it's so great that you touched on that, because I literally play the long game, and we were actually speaking about that, like off camera earlier too. I have a very much a long-term mindset.
Yep.
So much so that my son Jackson, who's 5, he's in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Now,
which is the best.
Which is the best, for sure. Yeah. I absolutely love it.
I can't wait until my kids start.
They have to be 4.5.
Yep.
But it is literally the greatest thing. And this particular professor is so incredible with these kids. It's like, these kids will actually like get kind of hurt and cry a little bit. And he's like, you're okay. This is all completely part of it. Yep. And just to watch them, like, have them walk this journey, and it's not from me. It's not from dad. It's from somebody else.
Yeah.
And what's so cool what they do there is, like, they instill them this confidence. And I'm literally doing it so he can be a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu by the time he's a freshman in high school.
That's right.
And then, like, he grows up. I don't have to worry about him traveling the world. He can choke out anybody on earth. and then,
no matter how much he weighs.
That's right.
That's right.
And then, like, he can protect his children. Yeah. He can protect his wife and his family. Like, I'm long-term thinking this stuff out, because I know the power of, like, martial arts and the confidence that it gives you and 100%. The discipline across the board. So.
Royce Gracie would be very happy with you right now, by the way.
Yeah, and that's actually where they go. They go to a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu gym that I, just absolutely am super fond of. And I love to be able to give those things to my kids that I had to learn later in life. But if I can give them, on like a 20-year head start, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to hit you with a little bit of surprise on the show right now.
Cool.
So perfect segueing around, I do the same thing for our team as I do for my kids. And so one of the things I try to think about is understanding that, I may be the boss and the leader of the group, but that doesn't mean the only voice they should hear is mine. And so we've actually started a speaker series where I'm hosting a variety of different speakers from different industries. And I'd be honored to have you.
I would love to come
and join me. So you come in and speak to about probably 150 people in New York. We'll tape it and then push it out to the rest of the globe on the media side. But that's something I would love to have you if you're interested. Because again, that whole concept, what we're talking about around curating perspective and context and honestly the environment that people should have is something I'm very passionate about. So I want to have people like yourself who I think, to the podcast we're on, have driven real results that I think would be motivating to my team. Or, my college roommate started Bombas Socks, which is one of the largest stock companies in North America.
Yeah, no, I know.
And he's come to speak about running a startup business from scratch.
Yeah.
And so those different experiences are great things that both will be taken better, not from me.
Totally.
Okay. And also are things that weren't me. And so I want to give that to my team. So would love to have you, but I think it was a good segue into the conversation around what we were talking about.
No, for sure. And it's again, it's a huge piece of the puzzle where it's like, that's going to go into a different place because it's not from dad or the boss.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so funny you said that. So I was just taping at this place in Burbank. Yep. Super nice guy. He set up all this different stuff in cameras. He goes back to the room. He does all of his stuff on the computer, and we crushed this crazy interview with this guy. Yeah. And we absolutely had a blast. It was great. He came out afterwards, and he goes, what were you talking about with all this stuff with real estate? He goes, I didn't know any of that stuff was even possible. And he was like fascinated. So I'm like, here's my book. Yeah. Like, here's my cell phone number. Call me. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. I will help you. I go, this is so important to me. You have no idea. Yeah. So many kids, so many adults, especially like here in this space, they don't know what their options are.
That's right.
I actually hit up D-Rock like a year ago because he was saying like some stuff about like a house, and I go, well, if you don't have to buy one now, kind of wait because of the market. Yep. But a huge piece of the puzzle is you literally buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex instead of a house.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you live in one of the units, you rent out the other 3 to cover the mortgage. But I literally give you the blueprint to do that because I didn't have that. And I was raised by a single mom. She worked her face off. All we did was rent. I was raised super poor. So I want to be able to give back to those people. Yep. And I love talking about it. And I just love talking about like, if you just tell your truth over and over and over and over and over again, like good things happen.
Yeah. And our truth at that core level is education. So even at a pitch level, I was in Vegas yesterday pitching a large scale client, and I think slide 5, it says education is our philosophy. And so we do consistent entry-level training where we tactically teach you how to have a career. We do continued education for people who need to learn the new skills as they grow and compete from being, entry-level to managers to directors and whatnot. Yep. And then executive training, thinking about, what does it take to become an executive in the space, bringing in speakers to talk to them about their experiences, showing them other careers, and also empowering them to leave. I think the last thing, too, is part of the education is realizing that you don't own anybody and that you have to empower them to learn how they'd like to learn. And some of that is experiences with and without you, whether that's the dad or the manager.
It's so well put, man. Like, you literally put that perfectly. So many people miss that. And they're like, no, I'm the boss. It's just my voice. Here's what we're going to do. Yeah. They don't have a clue on how to empower somebody to give them the capacity to go to the next level. Yep. And that takes more capacity. And you can get it through those educations and through the steps. So I don't know, someone who's like maybe here 4 years ago and they're kind of like, wow, I'm at Vayner. And then that's a very different person than the person that's got 4 years in this company.
Oh my God. I think that might be the biggest delta of all time.
For sure.
Because when you look at perception, I have people come over to our office in Hudson Yards in New York and they're like, oh, you guys are huge. And I'm like, well, no, we're an infant in the industry. Totally. We're 10 to 20x smaller than our competitors. But they see the office and they think, oh, we've made it and we've done all these things. Yeah. And you have an entry-level employee start that day in that office, and man, is their perspective different on our company than 2.5 years ago when I was sitting in the trash room and we had no desks on 24th and Park.
Right.
And so I find that fascinating, and I try to provide context and continue to preach that education and that truth, but it is difficult to provide that. That's like the environment. Like, you can't change what jungle they grew up in or what street they saw.
Yep.
It just is what it is for them.
100%. And it's been so fun for me to watch, because I literally got the content like just over 2 years ago, and I'm like, who's Gary? And then I'm like, he cusses a lot and he got D's and F's. Perfect. That's my fucking guy. I can relate. And then I was just able to kind of follow him. Yeah. And he was saying all this stuff that was literally playing into my fears. I didn't have a website. Like, I literally used Facebook to see like my friends from high school's kids. And I was running a multi-million-dollar real estate investment firm and like crushing it. But I had this panic every night. I was like, I'm getting left behind. And what happens if those 12 investors decide to stop buying real estate?
That's right.
I hated the fact I had no control. And so what I did is I'm like, I need to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going all in. I'm literally going to burn the boats.
Well, you have to protect your business.
100%.
Right? I always tell people, what is the sustainability and defendability of your business model?
Yes.
Because I get pitched a lot of ideas and companies and different things. And for me, I always preach defendability. And that is not, oh, my idea is better than everybody. It's how are you going to continuously execute and innovate off of the original concept to keep winning?
And those are the hard questions people forget, especially when they're getting pitched from a startup that think it's the greatest idea, since like Uber. And you're like, let me poke a couple holes in here and see where you guys are year 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the industries have a thing I call competitive collusion.
Yes.
Where basically it's like, oh, we're not going to ever actually collude, but competitively, indirectly, we know we are colluding, and we're just going to leave it alone. And that's anything from sunglasses to mattresses to the CPGs. I mean, a lot of those industries, you're seeing D2C brands, disrupt them, which I hate the term, but really it's just attacking with a new business model, an appreciation for consumer, change in behavior or purchasing cycles, or honestly, a new way to attack a market with a simple message. They're not revolutionary concepts.
And they all still work. It's how you deliver the message.
That's right.
And is it like bullshit?
Yeah, like Dollar Shave Club, I mean, the defendability of the idea was actually the aggregation of the brand feel, not the subscription box, which everybody I don't think they get.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone tried to copy the subscription box and failed, even Gillette.
Yeah, but you're like, no, you guys are missing a big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, they didn't understand the economics of, well, while Dollar Shave Club was investing in acquisition, they were also building brand, while also building a relationship with consumers, which was much more dynamic than anything else anyone had.
Most people miss the last two, the brand and relationship with consumer.
That's right.
And I come across it constantly. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, like, you need trust in market. You need brand. You need like to touch your client and care about them more than anybody else. And that's why I've been like pretty successful, because I care about all my investors' money way more than they will. Like,
Gary.
Very same with you. And because I take it so personally. Like, when you give me like, a lot of money, it's literally my whole world to protect it like a king would. I'm like, that's...
Well, it's all your reputation.
It's my reputation, because that's all I really have. I have my reputation, I have my network, I have my huge code of ethics, and like do the right thing over and over. That's why, again, like, I love the concept of like honey empire. Like, my kids get to like see me like this and do stuff. This will live thousands of years when I'm gone.
Yeah,
like
100%. I think that, honestly, kudos to Gary for the honey empire piece. I think he's softened me quite a bit. I was a cutthroat, savage business person because I grew up in a very competitive landscape in both sports and education. Always got A's. My brother's extremely bright. And I was always chasing him. Yep. And so for me, it was just like beat everybody. Babson College, very competitive as well. Everybody in class wants to like basically stab you with a shank, right? But we're at school,
right?
In the most positive way,
of course.
But
but it's like, who's at the top? I get their throat,
and it's a scoreboard,
of course,
right? And so I think what Gary's helped me develop is you can still have a scoreboard and have extreme healthy competition while enabling everyone to be successful and making it okay that everyone's going to be on the scoreboard and they're going to grow at different ways, but you can appreciate that and coach for everybody.
So important.
Yeah.
Like, and especially how like we have to build these teams. Like, you are brilliant, but you need a team to be able to execute at the level that you
100%
are.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people, honestly, I'm the dumbest person on the team,
And And it's funny because something is actually standing out because somebody called you a genius at the 4Ds, and you're like, look, I'm not a genius. My best friend, she's a genius. She's super smart.
Yeah.
But I was like sitting listening to it, and I'm like, dude, the guy's super confident, but he's also ridiculously humble that I have a ton of respect for because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but he just knows his shit, and he sticks by it. Like,
I'd love for you to tell my wife that I'm humble, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I would love for my wife to hear that I said it out loud. So I get it.
Yeah.
But it is a huge piece of who I am. Yeah. But at the same time, it takes people a while to like see that. Because sometimes they're like, yeah, but you're out there and you're big. I'm like, yeah, but spend some time with me, brother. Like I'm a very, very soft, humble dude.
I would, yeah. I think that's imperative for people. Don't judge a book by a cover, and also, you can't create a perception about someone because they're successful or confident or carry themselves in a room. That doesn't represent everything of who they are or what they do. And I always tell people, like, judge me by my actions and how I both treat you and other people, and make sure you know what you're talking about before you're going to judge me, right? Not on the perception of what you think I may be.
And that's a huge part of business that I've had to hit head on. I have tattoos.
Yeah.
I used to literally
I do as well.
I would like be in a suit, and I would swing into these boardrooms and do my thing, and then I would leave. Yeah. And then this is a super funny story, but so at 12 noon every day I would go run. So I would go run from Long Beach to Seal Beach and back, and it was cool, and I would just have my shorts on and like my shirt off, covered in tattoos, and I would run over the bridge and run back. And then I was literally in this meeting with almost all of our investors, a lot of money in the room, and very conservative money. And this guy who I think we're doing like 20 or something million with him a year, he goes, oh, man, Andy, you are not going to believe this. I just saw this guy that looked exactly like you running. And he goes, but man, he was covered in tattoos, but he looked just like you. And I started to roll up my sleeve, and he goes, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right then, everything changed. I was like, if that dude doesn't care, how come I'm not completely cool with being who I am 24/7?
100%.
And I shifted that, and it's been a huge piece for me in business, because now some people be like, what does this guy like look like? And then I can bring my knowledge similar to what you do with a lot of clients, as I'm sure you're like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But here's why.
Yeah.
And that kind of confidence is paramount to making these big decisions.
I couldn't agree more. I think the struggle for me, I always had the confidence from my parents around following my instinct. And I think, having early successes at both school and business, I think helped kind of garner that.
Yeah, me too.
But the struggle I had was everyone always told me I was wrong.
Yep.
And I was doing it the wrong way, or I needed to be patient, and I needed to follow the rule book. And, I worked in very corporate finance early in my career, and I was just so dismayed with everyone and how they acted, because they didn't care about me. They were trying to fit me into the guidelines that they wanted me to operate. And I don't accept that on me any more than clothing or tattoos. Like, my joke with everyone, the equivalent is ties. I don't wear a tie, ever.
Yeah.
You will never see me wear a tie. You want to know why? Who decided that a piece of garment
means
tied
something
in a knot, tied in a knot around your neck signifies something? Like,
such a great point.
Like, I don't want a piece of cloth around my neck in a knot. Like, that just, like, if you just said that to someone, do you want that? And is that no. Who made that? So my whole push on clothes, like, I don't wear ties. Like, I'll put a suit on to be fancy and formal and be respectful.
Sure.
But guess what? I'm not putting a tie on.
No.
Because no one is going to tell me that is something that I need to do.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, I use as an example because it's a stupid one that I pick.
But it's a great example, though.
But it is, because it's when you break down the realities of why people do things, very often they disintegrate because they have no backbone on why they do them.
Or it's just been told to you over and over again, and you're so programmed that you're afraid to deprogram yourself. And I've done that a ton in my life. I mean, I was literally told, it's a really good thing, Andy, that you are a really good athlete and you're very attractive young man by my guidance counselor. So, Miss Watson, I love you, but like, kiss my ass. And like, because I got such bad grades, everybody just assumed I was just not going to do anything. But in my head, I knew what I had. Like, I had the stuff. I knew it. School was not for me. But like, I was also going to at least try. But I always just kind of knew, like, if I was going to go and get it, it was going to be on me. But that's the only way I wanted it.
I always joke with Gary, and you guys have a similar thing where school wasn't your thing, which I think almost forces the factor easier.
Yeah.
School was my thing. Like, I got straight A's, right? And I had to follow my brother. I mean, minus English and Spanish, by the way. I swear a lot and can't speak at all, but math, I'm great. But if you looked at school, it was a pretty easy challenge for me.
Yeah.
And so it almost made it more complacent to follow the path.
Totally.
So I went, you get A's, then you go to the school, then you take business
I'm
class.
just following the path.
Then I went to private wealth and finance. So you're literally just following the footprints in front of you. And I think it's harder to get off the path for people. And it's why I talk about this stuff and try to do this more and more, because I want to educate people that you can, what I call curate your own career. And there's a variety of different opportunities out there that you never know exist. And I'm, perfect truth of that, I didn't know my job existed.
Yes, and you literally followed the path because it was what you were good at.
Yep.
It was what came very, very, very easy to you, and it was expected. So all those things together were like, well, yeah, I'm going to go over here. And then you realize like, well, wait a minute, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can build this company. And then now you're like, well, I can actually go to social media. I have such a message now that you feel compelled to share it.
Yeah.
And like, dude, you have unlimited value to 2, 3, 4 generations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, and for me, it was I felt so blessed that I found my career out of just trying things, because I was so disappointed in finance. I just quit.
Yeah.
I didn't even go back.
It's frustrating.
Like,
space.
I won't call my boss out personally, but she was the worst.
Yeah.
She had her biggest year ever, and then didn't give me just horrible treatment. And it was sad. So I quit. I only lasted like 9 months. And I remember sitting there going, like, I just need to try other stuff.
Yes.
Like, I literally need to go out and go, okay, what are the careers? Because I didn't have anyone to help me. Schools, like, they're not at the level of really integrated placement yet, where they're really curating careers for kids. They're really kind of just helping.
Especially at your level with, like where you're at, that doesn't even exist.
Yeah, and so it was really lucky where I take great pride where I was just testing stuff, and my mom got me a friend of a friend, and I got an opportunity and started running ads. And then I, like, within 2 weeks fell in love, and I was like, oh, this is for me, and I've always kind of
all the
evolved.
numbers make sense to your mind. Yeah. I didn't know that you were like deep into the finance space first.
Yeah, so I was in private wealth for 9 months. My brother's still in finance. He's a VP at Bank of America, extremely bright. Like, so I was always very heavy math. I moved to the more business strategy stuff as I got older, and because you get to almost move away from the Excel sheets, and you start what I call managing and hiring the people to do Excel sheets,
strategizing,
which I love and hate at the same time.
Of course, we all do.
Yeah, but it's fun to play a different chess game. Yeah, and that's how I look at it.
Love chess too, by the way. It's like something
I love to battle.
I would love to battle. Like this is a complete side story, but I was 6 years old. My parents had just divorced, and I was living in Long Beach, and my neighbor, he used to play chess, and he was this really old guy. I just liked the pieces. I was like, these things just look cool. And he taught me how to play. And I was getting goosebumps. Like, I can never be able to thank him enough for just that skill. Like, I use it today in literally negotiating deals in real estate. I'm like, I got 6 moves and you're toast. Yeah. Like, it's such a massive, it's just a cool game.
It's a good representation.
Absolutely.
Teaches patience, teaches intelligence.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of guys on the team and girls who are very good.
Yeah.
Well, I won't play them.
It's a competitive game, for sure.
Yeah. And I can't lose. I can't be losing to people on the team. So I'll just,
Yeah, you're like, I'll just play tomorrow. It's a bad look if I lose. Yeah. Well, man, I just, love your story. And I love what you're doing for this entire space. I love what you're doing for this company and all of your clients. Try to walk us through kind of what a day might look like for you, kind of from start to finish, where it's like, okay, so you wake up and then what?
Yeah. So I wake up roughly 6:37 every day, mostly from the kids. So so the 2 baby boys, I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1-year-old. So they'll wake up and come in and say hi to dad. And
it's the best.
And that's kind of the kick to the day. Yep. So start with them, give them a hug and a kiss. And then it's pretty much check emails for a few minutes, jump in the shower, do a steam for a few, work out real quick. I do, kind of a quick squat, push up kind of workout thing in the morning. Yep. Grab the 8:11 train to the office. I do about 40 minutes on the train. So that's all content digestion for me.
Nice.
So really do straight research, predominantly on either the projects I work on or things that I'm personally educating myself on, whether it's global expansion into APAC and what market, kind of usage is in certain plays or things of that nature. And then I'm spending pretty much from 9 to 9 working. So we're looking at 9 o'clock. I'm going to go in, I'm going to meet with my kind of senior staff, Avery and Claire, and really look at my day and go, okay, great, what are we doing? And typically my day is going to be a combination of one-on-ones with senior leadership, meeting with prospective clients. I do a lot of new biz pitching, both in the office and traveling. I'll spend a lot of time really focused on kind of architecture of our global expansion. So thinking about how do I put the chess pieces together around technology and partners and talent and processes to make it so that we can grow from, a 200 person to 500 person media shop and an 800 person agency that can go to 2,000.
That's right.
So that's a majority of my day. And then, probably 6 or 7, I'll leave the office. I'll do a couple of drink meetings. That's gonna be a combination, again, networking, new business, talent retention and recruiting. Do a dinner, most likely, hopefully, for, again, some level of revenue generation.
Sure, for work.
And then most likely take a car service or a train home, and then, again, content digestion and output. So I've kind of split that. So I'll do 50% research and then 50% output. As you know, I'm on a big push to really, provide more educational materials for the space. So that'll be another probably half an hour at home. And then I'll spend an hour doing emails. So I usually go to bed around midnight. Perfect. So that's kind of a typical day, unless I'm traveling, and then it's like mayhem.
Right. And then he's all in on the weekends. Like he goes all in on himself, all in on business, all in on his clients, all in on the investors, all in on everything, and his health and his fitness in the morning. And then he's all in on dad and husband. Like these are qualities, these aren't problems. And when you're like a high level producer, I don't care who you are, you're an all-in person. So there is no 100%. Like work-life balance. Like get the fuck out of here.
It's
like
what you choose for you,
exactly.
Right? Like happiness is, again, like dictated by the individual.
Yes.
I'm an extremely blessed and happy person. I have the luckiest life in the world and the most beautiful kids and wife. And for me, it's much more about, I spend the 7 to 7 on Saturday and Sundays with the kids while they're awake and when they're sleeping, and I work during the week. And that will change and evolve if it's gone over time. I spent 2 years early in my career with my wife, working 3 days a week, 10 to 4, making great money. And I spent a lot of time with my wife and my dad. And I was very happy then too. I think you really have to choose what you like. And, I also live in the philosophy, my dad was drafted in the Army, military services, a variety of military service people in the family. And I hang out with a lot of guys in the military. And I love the quotes around Navy SEALs.
Me too. Spend a lot of time with SEALs.
I do as well. I don't know if you know Brandon Webb. He's become a good friend.
Oh, cool.
I should introduce you guys. You guys would get along. But Brandon and I were talking about this recently, and it's fascinating that kind of the convention of a Green Beret or a Navy SEAL is that humans can do 10 times more than they think they're capable of,
100%.
or they've ever pushed them to do so. So one of the things I do, like I have 2 full-time jobs.
Yes.
Right? I run Chief Media Officer at Vayner, and I'm the CEO of Tracer. I do that on purpose because I truly want to push myself to see if I can do it.
Dude, that's the best.
And I think that that's for me. I like that, and my hobby is business.
Yes.
Right? I don't do anything else other than business, the
and
Celtics,
you
and
love
the kids.
it.
Yeah, I love it. It's not work.
It's fun, and I can tell by the vibe you give off,
Yeah.
like he loves this guy. It's like, you guys can't see his face right now, and you guys didn't meet him when I met him like a year and a half ago in New York. The dude loves his job.
I really do.
And he's good at it, so that also helps. But like, it's yours. It's your truth, and it's what's good for you. One of my favorite things on earth to do is to reintroduce myself to a new version of myself. And I literally shrink my entire world down into these crazy 90-day chunks so I can accelerate that growth. Because I like to collapse time. I like to set these targets where sometimes I have to become a different person. Like I never did a podcast before. Like I had to figure that out. I had to become that person to execute that particular thing. I do it in my physical body too, where I'm like, okay, how am I going to stay up for 3 days and compete with these SEALs? Like I have no choice. Okay, cool. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. And like, I like that. It's fun for me.
And I think people just need to be true with themselves around what they do enjoy.
Totally.
Right? And I think that part of it, they don't try new things, so they don't know what the alternative is.
They're afraid.
Yeah, they're afraid. And then, again, like I think they almost are afraid to decide that they do or don't like something. Like they're almost just, waiting. And
yeah, and here's the thing. You can find out for yourself. Like, you don't have to take your buddy's advice. Like, you might love it.
yeah, and guess what? Your buddy thinks differently things that, Gary always, you got to choose for yourself, and I very much believe in that. And I think, to your point about versions of yourself, I think that could never be more true as you mature and get older, especially when you go through being a dad or like health stuff. Like, I had cancer. So like I had skin cancer, got diagnosed with melanoma, was probably one of the most opportunistic thing that ever happened to me.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And like I almost struggled with the word because it was the most positive, negative thing I've ever had in my entire life. And I think probably a lot of people go through that with cancer and other death-oriented, especially early in life. I'm 35 years old, and I was 33 at the time.
Gnarly.
And and I just had my first son, and so it was really like
that's a lot all at once.
Yeah, it was a lot of. I wasn't expecting for them in the room to go, "Hey, you have cancer and melanoma."
Right.
I was like, "Well, what did you say?"
You said the C word, right?
Yeah, and for me, it was like a catalyst for like, okay, what am I doing here? And am I investing in the skills for myself? Am I curating my life, not just my career?
And what's your purpose? And it kind of puts those things into perspective real quick.
And I think being a dad and doing those things makes it a lot easier.
100%.
But I think people need to try to find those moments earlier in life, and I think they need to push themselves into them.
You have to fall.
Yeah.
You have to push yourself into a lot of different stuff. Yeah. I was super blessed to do a lot of different jobs. Yeah. And everybody's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, I want to learn new shit. Yeah. Like, I enjoy that process. I trust the process. I've fallen in love with the journey. Yeah. Like, I literally get bored out of my face if I've already mastered something. Yeah. So like, what's next?
Yeah. It's funny. Like, I had a client the other day and their biggest concern was that we wouldn't be excited about their business. Mm-hmm. And then they met me. And I went through like a 2-hour dialogue on their business, and like I was just like super into it. And it's not about the fee. I actually want the business because I think it would be great learning for the team.
Right.
And I'm looking at the CEO, and he just like is not. He's like, I don't understand the angle.
Yeah.
He's like, explain to me again. And I'm like, it's not.
There's
money.
no angle, man.
Yeah. They're like the angle is education for my team, and the case study to show that we knew the answer when no one else did. I said, I want.
That's you thinking at such a different level that CEO is so used to somebody. Well, there's got to be a hook. Like, no, homie. Like, I need your company to prove a point to my team. So like, that's the leverage I need.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm like, the team will enjoy this.
Yes.
And he like even that concept of like your team's going to enjoy work when you say that to other people is really like almost off-putting to them or like shocking. And it's really rewarding for me. I always love to talk about my team because I'm very blessed with some of the best talent in the industry and they make me look good. Like I only win because of the team that we've put together. And it's so fascinating that so often people talk about their team in a negative fashion or that they want to do work. And mine, like they stay late. I've had kids sleep at the office.
Of course.
And it's just, I'm so appreciative and enamored with them that the only goal then becomes like, well, how do we make them better? And how do we improve their careers? And how do we make them
That's why they do that,
that,
because you pour into them the way that no one else has ever done that.
Yeah. And my whole goal was like treat everybody the opposite of what I got treated for, 3 years because it was.
And that's why I go so hard in all this stuff with social media, all this stuff with real estate. I'm like, look, there are opportunities out there that you don't know about, and I'm here to give them to you for free. So just listen for a little bit. And if you take nothing away, just know you have way more opportunities than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big reason why I agreed to do this, right? I mean, you know me, I was trying to avoid the camera, avoid
big
PR.
Time. Big time.
And I think the catalyst for change for me was my desire to educate. I really feel like a lot of the executives in the space don't know what they're talking about, especially in the marketing space.
Big time.
Generally, the business coaching in the landscape is pretty poor.
It's a joke.
And it comes from a place of, inauthenticity. And it lacks credibility and value.
100%.
And so for me, I'm going to ignore the things that I hate for myself to put out content, hopefully that helps other people curate their career, have a better opportunity, or even challenge to do something new. And for any of the comments, and you know this as you going through the journey yourself, it's so rewarding even to get one.
It is.
Because, I had a kid reach out recently he went to Babson, and it was just really enjoyable and fun and humbling, where he said, hey, you really helped me think about different career opportunities that I didn't even know existed. And that was the whole goal.
Dude, it's my everything.
Yeah.
Like, I've done some really cool stuff in my life. I love my children with everything I have, and I'm a huge part of their life. When somebody sends me a DM or an email that's like, hey, I had no idea this was possible. You literally changed my life. I'm moving my family here. And they never liked a picture, never comments on anything, and they've been following me for 2 years. Like, those are the things that I know I'm going in the right direction, and I need to continue this journey.
Oh, 100%. Like, I have a guy, I mean, he wouldn't be mad if I said it. So Ben Allison, really good friend of mine. He's been with me across 2 firms, and I think he's a good representation. You know, young guy, up and coming star. I mean, A+ talent, and he's really trying to grow into new roles and push himself. And I've had the privilege and luxury to watch him and coach him and mentor him. And it's just fascinating to watch someone go through a journey who's so talented, and you feel very privileged to even be 1% of what they're doing.
Dude, I agree. Like,
You know?
I love being just a part of it.
Yeah.
It's like Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid. You're like, look, you're not going to understand why you're sanding the decks and painting the floors, but at some point, I'm going to throw some kicks and you're going to block them all. And that's the part where I'm like, you just got to trust the process.
Or even like the next day they roundhouse you to the back of the head, and I didn't see it coming. So that's kind of the level. That's generally Ben every day now. So that's enjoyable.
But that's again just a testament on how much you put into these people, because you love your job and because you're good at it and because like these things are all working out. And I'm super pumped because this guy was literally the guy that would say like, D-Rock, cut me out of all the edits. And so I'm just super honored for you to even be here and be on camera and be on audio. And so like, I'm looking forward to this, man. And I love watching your journey. And I just love what you're doing, like as a dad, as a leader. So many like quote unquote bosses like to lead from the back and bark orders. True leaders lead from the front. That's exactly what you're doing.
Yep.
So in closing, if you could pick like, you know, kind of one thing from your childhood that really helped you in business or just really helped you kind of just like go from here to there, like what would that one thing be?
I'd probably say how I started in business. So my first interaction with understanding negotiation and just simple like supply and demand was selling lobsters. So my dad scuba dove for almost 30 years, and he would catch lobsters with his hand in the ocean. So,
awesome.
And for everybody's context, they're not just crawling around in the sand.
No, they're in rocks. You got
have to reach your arm into a hole and then pull out a giant lobster. And for other contexts, like most people see 1 or 2 pound lobsters, there could be a 10 pounder and it can break your hand.
That's right.
And you're in 40, 50 feet of water, you're going to have a problem.
Yes.
So it's a dangerous endeavor. And he's, I mean, very talented. He's been doing it for years. But every Sunday when I was a little kid when I was like 4 to forever, he would come home and he'd have 15, 30, 40 lobsters in the cooler. And I got to count them, you know, bag them, count how much pounds they were. And then what I realized when I went to the market with my mom was, oh shit, they're $7.99 a pound. So I started doing the math at home with my dad and my mom as I'm learning as an adult. And I was like, okay, so Dad, you just made $250 on Saturday on lobsters. And then the real lesson for me was he gave them all away. And I was like,
beautiful.
I'm like, Dad, what the fuck?
Yeah, you just made money, dude.
Yeah, I'm like, Dad, like you just gave up $250, like to your buddies. They don't come over and give us any money. Like, what's going on here? And my dad's such a great guy, and he didn't.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal dude, and we're just giving him away, right? And he did it because he just loved the sport.
He loved the hunt.
Yeah.
He loved the hunt.
He'd keep a few for the fam, but like my uncles were living in lobsters, my neighbors living in lobsters, and so he eventually kind of like gave into my let's call it drive to sell the lobsters, and would give me a portion of the lobsters to sell to teach me the business model. And so for me, it taught me both the simple aspects of supply and demand and how that worked. It taught me the reasons why you should give things away for free very early around building network and community.
100%.
And it also taught me that like what hard work and people didn't understand it took to get the lobster. That was probably the biggest one for me, where like people, like you have a cost of good and it's the shirt, but people have no fucking clue what it took to make that shirt. And people had no clue what it'd take for my dad to get that lobster.
And just that level of appreciation that you got to see and experience, like it sounds like that set the frame.
Yeah.
Like that was it.
Yeah.
That's the thing too, guys. Like it's important when you're a parent. Like so many people miss the mark on this. Like it is literally everything I'm doing. Yeah. I'm leading by example for my children. Yeah. And like, I love to hear those huge success stories from you with those experiences with your family, because then you get to pass it on to your kids.
Well, and I would push that it's it's that, and people should push to treat everyone that way.
100%.
Right? Like, and start with your employees and your team, and start with the people around you, because you can have a positive impact on them, and most people just don't take the effort to do so.
It's true. And like you have to treat people well.
Yeah.
Like I love real estate. I love buying buildings. I love my tenants. They give me Christmas cards. Like I'm the opposite of a slumlord, like the furthest thing from it. And
well, that's good to know.
Yeah, I just, you know what I mean? Like
I'm maybe moving to the building then, you know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I love to buy those properties because so many tenants are just like, what's going on? I'm like, nothing's going on. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to raise your rent. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah, and I'm going to fix everything. And it's just like, wow, okay.
And that doesn't mean you have to be soft either. I always tell people, like, you know, most people know this in the like, Gary's probably more honey. I'm probably more empire.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to be easy on you.
Right.
Like, I'm extremely demanding.
Right.
Right. I set the bar extremely high.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't care.
Right.
Right. I would argue that I care more because I set a bar so high that I'm going to push you to be better than anyone else.
That's right.
Right. And so everyone has to do it their way. I just think you have to have appreciation for wanting to do it for everybody.
Yes. And not just be like singular with, you know, certain people, as you know, can be absolutely catastrophic on the wrong or right team.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sure.
And I think people also, you know, to be very honest, need to speak up against bad management and coaches as well.
Agreed.
Very often, I think people are afraid to speak up. I mean, I even had this instance where I saw managers above me deal with things very inappropriately to the point where they would be sued and nothing was said because everyone feared that person, right? And I think for me, you know, you get to a level of comfort in being an adult and just being confident where I would never allow that.
Ever.
Like, ever. Like, you did that in front of me, like,
it's over.
It's over. Like, I will put in effort to make sure that you're done.
Yeah, you're gone.
If you treat people poorly, right? Because there's a difference between being hard and being fair. And some people may not like my style or may not appreciate how I go about it, but I strive to be fair and value everybody and help everybody's career versus openly people hurting other people. And those are big differences.
It's just not necessary either.
It's not.
Like, you just get way more out of it. Well, man, thank you so much for your time, brother. I greatly appreciate it. You guys have no idea how much fire this guy has, and there's some secret stuff coming, so pay very close attention. If you're not following him on Instagram already, your handle is?
It's at J Nicholson, so JNICHOLSON, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
That's where you can follow this guy. If you're not paying attention, start, because the gems are going to continue to keep flying. So, Jeff, thank you, brother, so much.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
And I'll see you in New York.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. All right, Instagram, we are here at Vayner, and we're having secret meetings with... Secret meetings with that guy. Wait till you guys see the podcast. It was fire.